Hello everyone, and welcome to Inventory Replenishment and the Power of MRP Reports. I'm Denise, your host for today's session. Let's do some very brief housekeeping before we get started. Please know that by default everyone is muted upon joining the session, and if you'll take a look at your control panel, everyone should see something close to what I'm displaying. There's a section at the bottom of your control panel where questions can be typed, and this is how we do the Q&A. Questions can be typed in at any time during the presentation, and then when we get to the Q&A, I'll read the questions aloud in the order received. The asker isn't identified, but there are no silly questions anyway. And that's about it for our housekeeping. And I'd like to hand off to Elena, who is our sensational solutions architect, if you're ready. Elena?
I am. Thank you, Denise. Hello and welcome everyone. Today we will talk about inventory replenishment. We will show how you can efficiently identify material requirements and establish replenishment techniques with QAD MRP functionality and 32Soft replenishment workbench. Balancing between products availability and need to minimize stock is a common challenge in today's competitive economy. We need to ensure that materials are available for production and at the same time maintain the lowest possible material levels. We need to review stocks and delivery schedules for hundreds of items and promptly update or create purchase orders. Those of you who work with material replenishment on a daily basis know how time-consuming this activity is. In QAD, most of the information about projected material requirements and shortages you can get from MRP reports. MRP calculations have access to all sources of supply and demand, and with correct setup, produce quite accurate results that give us all the information we need to promptly order the right items at the right time, in the right quantity, and ensure that customer demands will be met on time and minimally agreed inventory levels are maintained. This information we can receive from QAD in the form of summarized and detailed MRP reports, planned orders created as a result of MRP calculations to balance supply with demand, and action messages that notify you when PO needs to be created, expedited, de-expedited, or cancelled. MRP reports show a lot of information that help identify sources of demands and required quantities, but they do not allow you to efficiently identify materials that needs to be replenished or purchase orders that needs to be updated. Planned orders are designed to help with this, but they come with their own limitations and cannot be simply converted into purchase orders. And you still need to gather all the supporting information to make sure requirements are accurate and are not driven, for example, by old obsolete sales order or high safety stock levels that have not been updated. Action messages that MRP calculations produce are the most efficient way to identify required changes to the delivery dates or to purchase orders. They recommend the actions that needs to be taken to balance supply with demand, such as creating, rescheduling, cancelling, expediting, or de-expediting purchase orders. But the amount of action messages produced by MRP calculations is often massive, and limited information in the messages still makes it very hard to act upon them. So this is the case of too much information that is very hard to process efficiently with existing QAD functionality. We've identified that to solve this issue, first we need an efficient way to review and analyze action messages. We've seen many times how QAD users ended up with printing many pages of QAD action messages and going with a pencil and a marker over each message. We wanted to be able to make a decision on each action message quickly and at the spot, without going into multiple QAD menus. But knowing what needs to be done is just half of the solution. The second half is actually being able to do what action messages suggest. This is how we came up with the replenishment workbench tool. Let's see how it works. Replenishment Workbench is designed as an Excel spreadsheet. Since it is based on the analysis of QAD MRP action messages, it opens on a central tab from which you can review, analyze, and act upon replenishment-related messages. With this tool, you also get instant access to various reports in QAD, and it works as a reporting and maintenance tool in one. You can turn action messages directly into purchase order changes. To start, as with all purchases of loaders, you need to tell the loader what QAD database you want it to connect to. Click on Setup button, highlight required QAD database, and click on Select. A message is displayed showing your database selected. You can search for specific messages by entering selection criteria in the header. You can specify a range of items, sites, buyers, and types of action messages that you want to review. Once you entered selection criteria, click on Download button. On the first connection of the tool to QAD database, a pop-up window will be displayed, prompting for your QAD user login. You will need to enter your credentials and click Login. Your user ID and password will be validated, and your access rights in QAD database will be determined. If credentials you provided are incorrect or you are not authorized to PO maintenance function in QAD, the database connection will not be established and the login window will keep coming back. If user authentication is successful, you will get selected messages in Excel. Each message is accompanied by detailed information that includes supplier name, order quantity, received quantity, current and suggested release and due dates, pricing details, quantity on hand, buyer information, optionally, if you have this functionality installed, usage for the current and past 3 months, and some additional item-related information. To help you analyze action messages more efficiently, there is a number of QAD reports that you can access by clicking on these buttons in the header. For any action message, let's pick some, maybe this one. You can look into detailed and summarized MRP reports. You can look at the supplier report. You can check inventory reports. It shows you stock availability. There is also supplier item details, information about all open purchase orders for this item, and also PO receipt inquiry for that particular purchase order. Approving these action messages in the replenishment workbench triggers creation or update of corresponding purchase order. Let's pick some messages and approve them. I'm picking different type messages to see what happens to all of them, and I want to, here's released due for planned order. This should ask us to create new purchase order. Okay. So once we picked messages that needs to be approved, to do so you need to switch flag approve from no to yes in the approve column. You can click on approve button. Replenishment workbench will automatically collect all necessary information from Excel and QAD and will populate with data PO modify and PO create tabs in this tool. It prepares for you data that needs to be uploaded into QAD based on these action messages you approved. On PO modify tab, you will have the list of purchase orders that needs to be updated. The most common change is to the purchase order due date. You can see existing and recommended purchase order due dates, or if action messages suggested you to cancel certain purchase order, you will see new recommended status for the purchase order. You can review information displayed, make any changes if required. For example, I want to load only one line for this PO. And once you review the data, you can click on the upload. Data will be validated against QAD database first, and if no errors are found, corresponding purchase orders will be updated. If errors are found, the corresponding cells in this Excel spreadsheet will be highlighted in red, and you will see details of errors for each red colored cell. If update was successful, if you'll scroll to the right, you will also see the update status. In my case, it shows updated and emailed. Replenishment Workbench allows you to automatically email changes you made to purchase orders to supplier, buyer, or administrative or auditing account if it's configured. I have a sample of such email from my mailbox that I included in my PowerPoint. So this is simple. It's just some text that is configurable that goes before purchase order and then the purchase order output. And so you could see how with a click of a button you could update tens or hundreds of purchase order line at the same time. Now we need to address action messages that ask for creation of new purchase orders. I switch to PO Create tab, and here is a list of orders that I need to create. On this tab, action messages will be automatically grouped into purchase orders by supplier address and ship to code. So multiple items for the same supplier, ship to, site will be placed in the same purchase order. You can review the data and make the changes, any changes if required. All the fields that are highlighted in green and orange are editable. Or you can also click on Validate button to verify data and also to download from QAD certain additional information. For example, cost. If I click on Validate, I will get from QAD unit cost. In my case, it's a test database. There is no price there, but if you have price list defined, then you'll have a suggested cost for that item from QAD. When you're ready to create new purchase order, you need to enter yes in the Create column, and then click on Update Purchase Order. This additional step with entering yes in the Create column has been added as a security measure to prevent accidental PO creation. Also, it allows you to process only some of the lines from the spreadsheet. For example, you approved hundreds of action messages, but you don't want to upload them at once, so you can use create flag yes only for some of the lines and do it by portions, upload it by portions. I click on Create Purchase Order. Another validation is done against QAD data, and if no errors are found, new purchase orders will be created. Assigned by QAD purchase order number will be displayed in Excel in PO number column, and also upload status will be updated. I have configured here emailing functionality, so when I modify or update any purchase order, I'm defined as an administrator, so all changes come to my inbox with all new and modified purchase orders. Again, if during the PO creation you would encounter any errors, all fields or cells with errors would be highlighted in red, and you would see the details of the errors in cell comments. After you created purchase order, you can review it by clicking on the View Purchase Order button and even print from here. So these are 2 lines that we add to our newly created purchase order. If you need to, you can print it from here. As you have noticed, this PO Modify and PO Create tab have their own selection criteria. You can use them to download orders from QAD independently of action messages. For example, if you need to create an order that is similar to the one you have in QAD, you can download that order. Let me clear my screen. Here's the order I want to download. I click on download. Let's say I just need to change the quantity, the same supplier, and I will put due dates as maybe May 1st. So these are my changes, and I click on Create Purchase Orders. Yeah, I forgot to put yes in the Create field. I click on Create now. So here is an example of when errors happened. And our error is, the cell is highlighted in red, and we'll see that it's a duplicated line. Yes, because I put the same due date for the same item. If I will put different due date, let's say May 5, it will create just 2 lines in the purchase order for different due dates. Okay. You see that purchase order now has been loaded successfully, no errors were found, and here's the new purchase order number assigned for assigned by QAD. Similar way, you can make changes to your existing purchase orders. So you can download existing purchase orders, review it, and if you need to close purchase order, you just enter new status, or if you need to reopen, or if you need to put new due date or modify purchase order quantity. As you can see, demonstrated inventory replenishment workbench helps you analyze and process the relevant material replenishment information from QAD very efficiently. It can process not only large amount of data with just a click of a button using simple and user-friendly interface, but does this in a safe, efficient, and reliable way. On this note, I will finish demonstration part of today's webinar and pass control to Denise to start the Q&A part.
What we have coming up next is our Requisition Plus webinar in March on the 16th. This will give our attendees a first look at our new enhanced requisition system. Hopefully you can join us for that. A quick look at our Quarter 2 webinars include Immaculate Inventory Part 2 in April. If you missed January, not to be concerned. It's not a mandatory attendance where you're not going to know what's going on in Part 2 if you didn't, but if you'd like to poke around a bit, you can find all of our past webinars on our past webinar webpage. And in May, the topic is to be determined, so we would love to hear from you. Tell us what topics you'd like to hear more about, or categories of topics, or what your interest might be, and we'll put out what that topic is with our newsletter. June, another do-it-yourself webinar is coming in June. These are always well received. You don't want to miss the do-it-yourself webinar, of course, but if you happen to know someone who could use a little help with this in particular, please be sure to let them know about this. Our other events, and I have to apologize about this, is way too much text for a slide, but it was a last-minute thought, just minutes before we started the webinar. The Midwest User Group we have coming up for the spring conference, the presentation will actually be a case study of today's tool. So if anybody is attending, please be sure and stop by for that presentation. You can read a little bit more detail on our website under upcoming events on our homepage of the website. Also, for our, After, we have two things coming up in the spring besides the webinars. We also have QAD Explorer, which is in May, the 2nd through the 5th. So we will be there if anyone will be in attendance. Please be sure to stop by and say hello. And as always, we will follow up as soon as the replay is available, typically within about a week. So keep an eye out for your Encore email, which will provide a link directly to the replay. The Encore also has links at the bottom of the message to our other upcoming events as well. And for our final thought, as we know, inventory is money sitting around in another form, yet insufficient inventory means lost sales and costly, time-consuming back orders. So let's appreciate our advances and continue to progress. I want to thank everybody very much for joining us today, and certainly we hope to see you again soon, hopefully next month's unveiling. And don't forget to give us some topic ideas for our May webinar and stop by the conferences if you'll be in attendance. Thank you again, everybody, and have a great day.